Hi, welcome back to our podcast, Good Deeds Real Estate with a Mission. I'm Nicole Quinn, and I'm here with Bill Weidecker. And
hello, everybody.
And today we wanted to talk a little bit about appraisals. And sometimes appraisals don't always come in where we want them to. So I think today what we want to talk about is what we can do as realtors to avoid that happening if at all possible, and then what we do to handle it when it does inevitably happen from time to time.
Yeah, so for most property owners, the thing that I find interesting is that they so very rarely sell their primary residence. It's every 7 to 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's a new process each time because the world is always changing.
Absolutely.
And one of the things that's remained pretty constant is that in the vast majority of finance cases, the bank is lending based on an appraiser certifying reasonable value. And so they've got to go and appraise the property, make sure that they're loaning it's in such a way that they're not at risk, mm-hmm. that the property's worth what they're going to loan. And in times like this, Nicole, where prices have just been going steadily up, and through the last 3 years of what started in the pandemic, but also even earlier than that, prices have just been increasing. Mm-hmm. And now it seems, all of a sudden, we're hearing more and more that appraisals are not coming in at the value that they're under contract for.
Yeah.
And I know that there's strategies that we employ mm-hmm. With our sellers and with our buyers. So in many cases now, because the market is so competitive, there are lots of buyers that are saying, I'm going to make, if there's a gap in the appraisal, mm-hmm. I'm going to make up that gap. And in some cases, it's a blank check. Doesn't matter what the gap is, I'm going to make it up. In other cases, I'll make up the gap up to X amount of dollars, $10,000, $20,000, $30,000. Mm-hmm. So, but I do believe that because this is starting to happen a little bit more, maybe we're at the tail end of appreciation. It's hard to know. Mm-hmm. When will we know? When we're looking back, right? When the prices have all of a sudden stopped.
Yeah, what's that they say about hindsight?
Yeah, it's 20/20 vision. Yeah. So I think that the key thing there is that when you're selling a property, mm-hmm. As the seller, you want to make sure your realtor mm-hmm. Is skilled at negotiating, especially when it comes down to appraisals. And we were very early on that detail, mm-hmm. Very, very early, well in advance of any others. And it was sort of difficult because there were a lot of agents out there that were like, appraisal gap, make up an appraisal gap, waive the appraisal condition. Yeah. And what started to happen is buyers in such a red hot market, in their desire to be as competitive as possible, started waiving them. And now we're in a little bit more what we refer to as a buyer-friendly market. Yeah. It's not a buyer's market by any stretch. It's still a seller's market. But there are conditions that we see in offers today that are a little bit more friendly towards the buyers. But the appraisal discussion is still one that we should be prepared to have with our clients, both whether they be buyers or sellers. Yeah. What's your take? I mean, have you felt, in your career, where this comes up, you've sort of seen this all the time in your career.
Yeah.
What's your sense with buyers? What do they feel out there?
So buyers, because we've been working on this for a long time as a team, I've prepared most of my buyers in advance to understand that if, especially in instances where we're going to be over asking, that they should be prepared and understand that there can be an appraisal gap that comes up. And either that can be a forewarning, like this might become an issue, or to let them know that can be something that we negotiate with, because if they do have the cash where they could possibly cover an appraisal gap, but that could be a bargaining chip that makes their offer that much stronger. Mm-hmm. But for the people who can't do that, I think that it can be very frustrating, because then they feel they could be financially strong as far as making an offer that the bank says they're approved for, but it may not be approved for that property. And that just kind of still like adds another layer of hurdles that we have to get over. But I think that, going into it and preparing your buyers as the agent in advance to understand, at least they won't be surprised.
Mm-hmm.
And I think as somebody who works on the listing side too, when an offer comes in and an agent clearly understands that, it's refreshing to me because it takes one more worry off the plate.
Yeah, there's the National Association of Realtors does a survey every month, and the survey it's a confidence index based on the realtors that are in the business. And when asked the question about financing, what we found through the month of June is that 25% of the purchases are cash.
Yeah.
So 1 in 4 purchases are cash, which means there is not going to be an appraisal condition in the vast majority of those because it isn't necessary. There is no lender.
Well, there's the answer. Just pay cash.
Just pay cash. Just pay cash. And here's the other side of it is the real estate prices in June for solds in New Hampshire were the highest they've ever been at $495,000.
Okay.
So we are now at we're tickling $500,000
Right.
as an average price home. Hard to believe when I look back at 2017. The median priced home then was $265,000. Wow. So we're almost double. Yeah.
Yeah.
So if you're, I guess the takeaway is that if we're going to be helping and assisting, whether it be a seller or a buyer, that this is a discussion that comes up regarding appraisals.
Yes. Yeah.
And you have it while you're negotiating your offers.
Yeah. I like to have it at the first consultation. So this first time we sit down, we like to go over a mock offer with
Yep.
our buyers. We talk about it during that mock offer. So that way when it comes time to make an offer, they understand what I'm asking them to do. Sometimes in the heat of the moment when, offers are due at 5 p.m. and you saw it at 2:30, it's not easy to explain that while you're trying to make an offer very quickly. So yeah, I find that it's best to do that in the beginning.
That's smart, because that buyer consultation is you're having the discussion before there's any property involved.
Yeah.
There's no pressure.
They're not emotional about
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
Well, that's a good way to tackle it. And then when it comes up, it's like, you remember we had this discussion
Right.
when we first sat down.
Yep.
Well, I think that's a lot for today, and I'm
Yep.
glad we were able to bring that to our viewers.
Yes.
And
Yes, thank you for your input, and thank you all for watching. Please don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel or follow us on your favorite podcast platform.